Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Like I said in my channel update a couple of videos ago, I'm going to be doing a wide range of topics, and this one is, especially whilst it's still fresh in my mind, and also it'd be good to look back on in the future and see what my thoughts were on university back when it's been about, well, it will have been exactly a year since I got my degree, pretty much around about now. I can't remember when I actually got it, when graduation was. Though I think my final assignment for university was handed in April 2022. But anyway, this video is going to be about basically, the title is something like, do you need a game design or game development degree? Do you need to go to university in order to become a game developer, essentially? Um, so the tagline's a bit like sort of clickbaity, catchy, that sort of thing. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to say right now, a degree in game development and becoming a game developer do not have to be like together. You do not have to get a degree to become a game developer, that's for sure. However, in this video, I'm going to be going over sort of the pros and the cons of a degree related to game development and whether or not it could help you get a job in the industry. If you don't know, smooth the hair, that's the wrong side. I currently work for Team 17. Team 17 is a UK based game publisher, and so I've been successful in getting into the industry. I've worked at previous companies before, also run a successful board game company, and published by other board game publishers as well. So for 24 years old, I've been relatively successful in the industry so far. So I can hopefully give a good perspective of, like, say, if you want to be where I am when you're 24, then this might be helpful in some way. Say you're like 16 in college and thinking, do I want to do a degree or do I just want to, go at it alone? So anyway, I'm going to go straight into the pros. Hopefully this video will be relatively short. The first pro for me was structured learning. Now, I'm not someone who, well, especially when I'm not particularly motivated, I'm not someone who can learn by themselves. And that's obviously like a product of the educational system, the fact that it feels like you kind of have to, you feel like you need, well, some people, especially me, feel like you need someone else to teach you things in order for you to learn them. Now that's not necessarily because they're better at teaching stuff than you are teaching yourself, or that they can put things in a different way, or they can make things easier to understand. I mean, that's true for a lot of teachers, not all of them. But for me, it was just like, I didn't have to think like, what do I need to learn? I didn't have to think like, oh, where do I get this information from? Where do I source it? Does it cost money? Can I find it for free? That sort of thing. It was more so, I went to a lesson, I sat down, and then I was taught stuff, which was really, really helpful for me, especially when you're starting off. Is that common phrase, like, you don't know what you don't know. So for me, it was, when doing my degree at university, it was very, very helpful for someone who knows what I need to learn to be able to just teach it me without me first having to figure out what I need to learn to begin with. So that's a big, big pro for me. I mean, obviously, if you work better as just teaching yourself, that's obviously not going to be as big of a pro for you. The second one is external motivations. Now, if you're not particularly motivated to learn something, even you want to learn, or maybe you're not motivated to learn something you don't want to learn, which would be more likely to be the case for motivation, then university and college, if you're doing a game development course in college, is a great way to be forced to learn that anyway. Like, that's the thing. It's sort of similar with the structured learning point. Regardless of what your current motivations are like, or like sort of your where your emotional standing is or mental standing is, you still go to the lessons and you still get taught stuff, and you still have to submit assignments. So you still have to do the work, and that might be seen as a negative for some people. Like, so some people might think, oh, I want to get into the games industry, but I want to kind of do it at my own pace and my own terms. For me, that's not something which I particularly enjoy. When I left uni, it was, and like started getting my first jobs, it was very, very difficult because I didn't really see money as like a motivator. It was more like the work. And it was kind of like it was a struggle to feel motivated to do the work sometimes, because it was outside of that very structured environment. It was just kind of like, oh, okay, right, you've got a week to do this, and it was kind of up to you how you did it, which I found quite difficult, and something which I've gotten used to now, but it took a while. And so these external motivators of like, yo, you need to submit this in order to pass the degree that you are paying a lot of money for, which is a con, which I'll get onto in a bit, is actually, for a lot of people, quite powerful. For other people, it could be seen as a negative because it can induce anxiety and stress. For me, that's actually a benefit, because anxiety and stress like give me the motivation to do stuff. Like it instead of it debilitating me, it more so gets me working harder, kind of thing. And then the final one, which is probably the biggest point by far, and it's helped me so much, is connections. When you're on a game development degree, everyone on your course has the same goal. Well, pretty much everyone. Some people just want to do university because they don't know what else to do. Other people want to do a game development course because they think it's all about playing games, and they think it's the same thing. Those usually get weeded out in first year. But connections such as Fodsley, who does the artwork for my board games, Dan, who has helped co-design Fatal Knockout, a bunch of other people who helped me when my different team project teammates who helped me. Together we created an amazing game called Lethal Deal, which won a bunch of awards, which helped massively. My first job in the industry with a company called Sigtrap was with a Huddersfield, that course alumni called Gary, and it was through the course which I met him, which was a huge thing as well. The tutors which I was taught by and then later worked with, because I also taught at the university, which I might do like a whole separate video about. They're great connections to have, and we were taught this pretty much day one of the course. In this industry, no matter how unfair it kind of sounds, it for the most part it is who you know, not what you know. Like, if you know the right people, you can get sort of any job, and people are more willing to hire people they know and they like, and have experience with, than completely unknowns. And also the reference system. Oh, just got notified. That was me, not you. Forgot to deafen my desktop audio. So the referencing system for a lot of companies is very, very powerful as well. That's how I got a job at Team 17, because I knew someone who worked at Team 17. Well, how I got my interview anyway, quite easily, was basically if you recommend anyone, the company you work for, more often than not, at least like for the first time you recommend someone, like if you keep recommending people and they're like duds, then they might stop accepting your recommendations. But if you recommend someone, they're almost definitely going to get at least an interview. So yeah, those are the three big positives, which were structured learning, external motivators, and connections. So the first two are very much just like, if you're not great at self-teaching yourself, university is great for that. You don't get me wrong though, at university you still have to self-teach quite a lot, because compared to other stages of education, university has the least by far percentage of in classroom time. The vast majority of the time you are spending on your own, but it does give that sort of structure and that starting point to get you going, which I think is very, very important. And then finally the connections as well, hugely important. The cons very much are, it takes a lot of time. I was at university for 5 years. I had to reset my first year. And then I also did a sandwich year, which was with the Huddersfield University. It was with the enterprise placement year team, where I spent a year just working at my company, which I thought was invaluable as well. But it took me 5 years to get my degree, so from 18 to 23, and also a lot of money. Now, that's not something which is like a huge deal when you actually, because like, for example, in my job now, obviously, if you don't know how it works, when you take out the loans for your degree, then you get a cut of your wage taken out of your wage every single time you get paid, and then that gets sent to the government to pay for those loans. But the percentage is quite low, and it barely affects you. I mean, you don't even see it. Like, if you looked at your pay slip, then you might get a bit depressed, because you can see like, oh, I would have earned like an extra like 50 quid this month or something like that, you know. But it's not too big of a deal. But if you are bothered about the money, then it is a hell of a lot of money, and that could factor massively into your life, the value proposition of uni for you. But the main thing is it takes a lot of time. In hindsight, going back, I probably could have learned everything which I had learned in the 5 years of university in like 6 months teaching by myself, like teaching myself. But the problem with that is that I'm confident that that would never happen, because I'm terrible at teaching myself. Especially then, like I'm much better now, but I was really bad at teaching myself. Didn't know where to start. Would have probably gone down a bunch of different alleyways. Probably would have specialized way too early instead of being forced to learn about other disciplines, which is essential for any discipline you go into. So yeah, that's the pros and cons of uni. I do think it's a good idea to go, just to give you like sort of a TLDR. It's one of those where, especially with uni, I think it's always good to try out. Like when it comes to anything you want to do for the most part, because the experience of like the meeting people and the connections is huge as well. And that might be might be the deciding factor as why you want to stay the course. You might love it as well. You might love just uni life. You might love the degree that you'll be doing, that sort of thing. But I do think that it depends on the field as well, but that's a whole different thing. But I think as a blanket statement, for the most part, especially if you aren't particularly great at teaching yourself, or you don't know where to get started, and you don't know anybody in the industry already, then university, any sort of game development course, obviously look at your different universities and see what their value proposition is. But for the most part, I think it's definitely worth investigating and potentially trying out 100%. But yeah, so that's my pros and cons list. Very rambly. These videos are going to sort of be rambly. Talk about value propositions. For me, like one of the things which I'm trying to do at the moment is make these videos like really easy to make for me, so then I actually have time to do them. So here we are. The reason why I'm looking over here is because I've got 7 bullet points, and that's it. And then the rest has just been rambly. But anyway, that's it from me. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully enjoyed, and I shall see you in the next one. Goodbye.